in Manitoba, University of Manitoba, Winnipeg, Canada. Fun fact, that is the geographic center of North America, or very close to the geographic center of North America. I really want to welcome you all here from all over the world, and thank you for joining us. I'm quite excited about the 7 very varied talks that we're going to have as part of the GREX World Kidney Day webinar. World Kidney Day's theme this year is to bridge the knowledge gap to better kidney care and bringing together the community for kidney health. And I think GREX is a great demonstration of that. The Global Renal Exercise Network has built a community of international multidisciplinary individuals interested in furthering lifestyle interventions in kidney care. And really our goal is to foster collaborative interdisciplinary research and innovation across multiple disciplines to develop effective and feasible strategies to increase physical activity and exercise in order to optimize outcomes for people with kidney disease. And I think a large part of this is actually communicating the information that and the knowledge that we develop to the community overall, including patients, and working with our patient partners to forward this into actionable items. So I'm proud to say that I think we are working toward the goals of World Kidney Day today, even by just sitting here and watching this webinar. I think one of the things we'd like to introduce that we've developed recently is the GREX Young Committee for the GREX network. And so I'm going to introduce Heitor Riberio, or I'm going to ask Heitor to talk about GREX Young, just say a few words. Can you hear me?
I think I was going to do it, Clara. That's okay.
Oh, sorry, Brett.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah, Brett. You go ahead. You got this deal.
Sorry, Brett. Very sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you very much, Clara. Go ahead, Brett. It's on you.
I'll do it for you, Heitor. It's okay. So the GREX Young, yeah, just a little spiel. It's been operating now since about mid-November. So GREX Young, it consists of early career researchers, trainees, clinicians, all committed to supporting the overarching goals of the GREX, which you just heard about. Also, just a little bit of a group, obviously, just for those younger people who might feel a bit intimidated by the OC in terms of where they are in their careers. So it's just been a great platform just to get together with people at similar stages of their career. So as I mentioned, it did start in mid-November. I think Emily can probably tell me how many members we've got, but it's roughly around about 10 to 12 at the moment. So it is steadily growing. So always on the lookout for new members. The only caveat is that I think it has to be under 35, although in saying that, I think we're pretty flexible on that one. No one's actually been asked to show an ID yet to get into the group. So please feel free to join the group. It's just a wonderful platform at the moment. So in terms of what we've been doing over the past few months, so you've probably already seen one of the first outputs, which was the World Kidney Day Bingo, just something a little bit novel, a little bit fun. We've got some other things that we're working on in the pipeline. One of the things that was discussed really in the early days is that the GREX Young really wants to work towards collaborating on that international scale, as Clara talked about. So we're actually quite driven to do something ourselves in that space. And we really see it as a great platform and opportunity to work on larger scale projects, which don't just come by all that easily. So some other things that we've talked about doing and are in the pipeline over the coming months is we're looking at some podcasts between GREX Young members and some GREX OC members as well. So a bit of young as the more experienced researchers. So podcast is definitely in the pipeline. Twitter takeover is another one that we're talking about, but we're always on the lookout for new ideas. So if you think you have something for us, we like to think that it's going to be a bit progressive. So always happy to take on more ideas. And just before I hand back to Emily, just a big thank you to Emily. I'm sure you've all received an email from her. She's really just been fantastic over these first 4 or 5 months, not just for GREX Young, but just for the GREX whole. I think she does an absolute fantastic job. And I think I emailed her to tell her that I think that she's the glue. And I don't think that anyone would really disagree that she's just been fantastic in these early days. So I'll throw it back to you, Emily.
Wow, Brett, thank you very much. So for those of you who don't know me, I am the project manager for GREX. So I am the one who's kind of behind the scenes for the most part, emailing everybody, getting this webinar up and running. So welcome to everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a lot going on today for World Kidney Day. So I'm very grateful that you all came today to listen to these wonderful GREX Young presenters. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. So our first presenter is Noemi. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce her today. So she is a third-year PhD student at the Leicester Kidney Lifestyle team in Leicester, United Kingdom. So she has a background in exercise physiology. Her general interest is the role of exercise in prevention and rehabilitation of chronic diseases. Within her PhD, she is researching the feasibility and the effects of home-based strength training on physical function in patients with non-dialysis chronic kidney disease. So she couldn't be here today, so she did go ahead and pre-record her presentation. That being said, if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and then I can go ahead and email the questions directly to her, and she can provide a response shortly when she's back from her travels. So I will go ahead and share my screen and bring up her presentation here. All right, everyone can see that okay? Perfect, all right, I'll get going here.
Hello everyone, my name is Noemi. I'm a PhD student at the Leicester Kidney Lifestyle team, and today I'm going to talk about
We cannot hear it, Emily.
Oh, okay, probably because I was muted. My apologies. Here, let me try that again.
Hello everyone.
Is that better?
My name is Noemi. I'm a PhD student at the Leicester Kidney Lifestyle team, and today I'm going to talk about the validity of the 12-item short form health survey to measure physical function. And because I'm unable to be there, Dr. Thomas Wilkinson will be answering the questions after this presentation. So the reason I wanted to explore the SF12's ability to measure physical function is because it's quite a well-used test in kidney research to measure quality of life and sometimes physical function or frailty. And a score of lower than 75 or 50 was found to be indicative of frailty or low function. However, this score was never actually validated, or the SF12 was never actually validated against objective measures of physical function. So with the use of a cross-sectional study comparing objective functional tests to the SF12, I explored the validity of this self-report test to measure physical function. And although we used quite a few tests, including gait speed and timed up and go, I would like to focus on the sit-to-stand 60 test and the hand grip strength test today, which I'm sure you're all quite familiar with. So the statistical analysis, first we did crude correlation coefficients, and this is just to look at the relationship between the SF12 and objective tests. And then we did something called the receiver operating characteristics curve, which gives us quite a few values, but probably the most important is the area under curve, which if we get under 0.7, it's over 0.7, is considered as an acceptable test. So first, this is the correlations. So you can see that the sit-to-stand 60 and the SF12 actually correlate quite well. It's got a good moderate correlation, and it's quite a significant correlation as well. However, the hand grip test doesn't seem to correlate that well with the SF12. It's quite weak, and it's also insignificant. And this seems to translate into the ROC curve as well. So this is how a ROC curve looks like. You can see that the sit-to-stand 60 has got quite a big area on the curve here, and it reaches the acceptable level of 0.7, and it is also significant. However, the hand grip test doesn't seem to perform, or the SF12 doesn't seem to perform as well when compared to the hand grip strength test. It's quite a low area on the curve, and it's also insignificant. So what does this tell us really? It tells us that the SF12 could be used to measure physical function. However, researchers and clinicians should know that it is probably only an acceptable measure of lower body function, and it is a poor measure of upper body strength. Now, here we are obviously not saying that the hand grip strength test is not a good measure of strength. We are saying that it doesn't have a good relationship with the SF12 self-report measure. And the score of 75 or 50 is only an indicative of a lower body function, but not upper body strength. So thank you very much for listening to me today, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
All right, so thank you very much, Noemi. Again, she is traveling right now, so if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and then I can relay those back over to her. So we'll move right along here. Our next speaker is Courtney Lightfoot. So Courtney is a mixed methods research associate from the University of Leicester in the United Kingdom. She is a member of the UK Kidney Association and part of the UK Kidney Research Consortium Exercise and Lifestyle Clinical Study Steering Group, supported by Kidney Research UK and the UK Kidney Association Living Well with Kidney Disease Special Interest Group, chairing the patient workstream. Courtney, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Emily. Can you see my screen okay?
Looks good to me.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my research interests and stuff that I'm currently working on. So patient activation is the degree to which individuals understand their role in their healthcare and how competent they feel in performing that role. So it's particularly interested in the knowledge, skills and confidence that an individual has in managing their health and healthcare. The most commonly used measure to assess patient activation is the patient activation measure, which categorises patients into 1 of 4 levels. And then self-management is the essential component of chronic disease management, and it can empower patients to take a more active role in their health and healthcare. And it comprises of a complex set of tasks and processes. And the 3 core tasks are the medical management, the role of behavioural management, and the emotional management. This is a bit of self-promotion, but if anybody's interested in patient activation and self-management, we've just published a review in Kidney and Dialysis that explores the relationship between patient activation and self-management. And this kind of leads me on to my main area of work. So I'm particularly interested in the development, evaluation and implementation of complex interventions. So during the pandemic, I've led on the development of an online self-management programme called My Kidneys and Me. So this was developed using the intervention mapping framework, and it's designed to improve and maintain self-management behaviours. This includes increasing knowledge, self-care skills, self-efficacy, lifestyle behaviours and well-being. And the key programme goals are to increase patient activation, reduce health risks, particularly cardiovascular risks, manage symptoms and increase physical function. So then on to the next thing is the evaluation and the implementation of the programme. So My Kidneys and Me is currently being evaluated in a clinical trial called SMILE-K, which aims to assess the effect of My Kidneys and Me on patient activation and subsequent self-management behaviours. So we're almost halfway in recruitment to the SMILE-K trial, so that's going quite well. And then the other side of it is the implementation. So we've just recently started an implementation project, so I've got a PhD student who's working on this. So we're currently conducting scoping interviews to explore and understand kidney services and how My Kidneys and Me might be implemented into practice. We're also conducting a Delphi survey to explore priority outcomes of self-management in kidney disease. And then we're going to implement My Kidneys and Me into practice, and we're going to conduct a process evaluation to assess the implementation process and the adoption and use of My Kidneys and Me in practice. And then some other areas of interest are the lived experiences. So I'm particularly interested in people's experiences of living with kidney disease, how this affects their life, and also their experiences of taking part in clinical trials. I'm also interested in, as I mentioned a second ago, about people's experiences of and their quality of life. I'm also interested in sleep, particularly sleep quality. And I've started working recently with a colleague who's got a particular interest in green space in long-term conditions. So we're hoping to start a project soon that's looking at access to green space in people with kidney disease. And that's everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing your lovely research. Any questions? Oh, we got a comment here. Looking forward to the results of the SMILE-K trial.
Me too.
Beautiful slide.
Me too. Thank you. Yeah, we were about halfway through. We did have a pilot phase, so I'm just trying to write up the results from that now, but it's very promising, so that's good.
We have a question here from Heitor. Congratulations, Courtney. How are you evaluating sleep quality?
So we are hoping to start in the summer a new project that's looking at sleep. So we've got some sleep questionnaires to assess sleep, and then we'll also be interviewing participants about how they sleep and their sleep quality, what they think it is. So that work will feed back into the programme. So My Kidneys and Me has got a sleep component to it. But at the moment, the information in there is quite basic. We want it to be a bit more targeted to the problems that people experience. So a lot of the work that we do will then feed back into the programme and will then improve the programme to make it better. Paul, it's CKD, so non-dialysis. We haven't started the Delphi survey yet, so it's currently just going through ethics. But I can share our experience when we reach that point.
Awesome. Any other questions for Courtney? Good. Clapping emoji. Awesome. Great job. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move along to our next presenter, Geovana. So Geovana holds a Master in Science focused in clinical epidemiology and is a PhD student at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Her research interests include exercise and nutrition in hemodialysis patients, and she is currently working on her PhD project titled Intradialytic Oral Nutritional Supplementation Combined with Exercise Improves Muscle Mass Quality and Physical Function in Young Hemodialysis Patients. So Geovana, whenever you're ready, you can share your screen and go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for the presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now you can see my screen.
Yes, that looks great.
Super. Well, here in Mexico, in previous studies, we have evaluated the effect of intradialytic oral nutritional supplements compared with ONS plus exercise. And this, in these previous studies, we didn't found any additional effect of exercise in muscle mass measured by anthropometrics. But we saw greater effect sizes in different physical function tests. As we can see here, the resistance exercise group and the aerobic exercise group both have greater effect sizes in these 4 physical function tests. And the reason of why we didn't found any additional effect of exercise in muscle mass, maybe is because we work with a very young hemodialysis patient population, and they don't have money to pay 3 hemodialysis sessions per week. So we start to think about increase the dose of oral nutritional supplementation and increase the dose of exercise. So in this new clinical trial, we decide to increase the oral nutritional supplement, double dose of this oral nutritional supplement, and we also increase the volume of exercise. Our patient starts to combine aerobic and anaerobic exercise for 6 months, and they also receive a double dose of oral nutritional supplementation. In this trial, we investigate the effect of intradialytic oral nutritional supplementation with and without these two types of exercise for 6 months on muscle mass quantity and quality, but this time we measure muscle mass quantity and quality with computed tomography. At the end of the study, we found a significant trend in favor of the group that exercise in the quality in the muscle attenuation variable that it talks about quality of muscle mass, but we didn't found any additional effect of exercise again in the quantity of muscle mass. This can be translated in these statistical significant differences between groups at 12 weeks of follow-up in time up and go tests, 5 times sit-to-stand test, in the short physical performance battery. And we only see statistical significant differences between group at 24 weeks of follow-up in the variable 6-minute walk test. But we didn't saw again any effect of exercise in the quantity of muscle mass. So maybe we start to think about that exercise and oral nutritional supplement can be enough to improve muscle mass. I'm talking about muscle mass, and maybe we may start to think about anabolic resistance in this patient population. Thank you. 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Geovana. Great presentation. So I'll kick things off with a question here. How did you find, or how did you deal with any non-compliance, if you had any, for patients?
How I measure compliance?
Yeah.
Well, our patients goes to the hemodialysis sessions 2 times per week, and I start I only count the days that they exercise, and I count the days that they have their oral nutritional supplementation. I have like a 100% sessions in these 6 months, and I only count the adherence according to the days that they follow up the intervention.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's intradialytic intervention. They is not anything at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's easier to do.
Perfect. So we have a question here from Heitor. He wants to know what was the volume and the intensity of the strength training that you were doing?
Well, we measure the intensity with Borg scale, and intensity is moderate intensity.
Perfect. All right, Annabelle has a question here. She says, nice work, Geovana. About how much energy and protein did you provide to the participants? And second question, did you see that the supplements displaced dietary intake of other foods on dialysis days?
Well, for the first question, we gave patients 1.2 grams of protein a day and 30 to 35 kilocalories a day. About the second question, no, I think because they are too young, they don't decrease their intake.
Great. Any other questions for Geovana? No? All right. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move along to Heitor. So Heitor holds a Bachelor of Science of Physical Education and Sport and a Master of Science in Exercise Science. Currently, he is a PhD candidate at the University of Brasília, Faculty of Exercise Science. He is a lecturer at the University of Maia Porto in Portugal, and a researcher at the Research Center in Sports Science, Health Sciences, and Human Development in Portugal. His research interests include intradialectic exercise programs and the association between sarcopenia and osteoporosis with chronic kidney disease. Heitor, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Emily. May you guys see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so first I'd like to apologize for my voice. I've been recovering from COVID, so if I cough sometimes, so sorry. So I'm going to present one of these studies from my PhD thesis at the University of Brasília, which is entitled The Association Between Sarcopenia and Clinical Outcomes in Chronic Kidney Disease Patients, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. As some of you might know, sarcopenia has been primarily reported in the 1980s. As an age-related decline in muscle mass. However, many evidence came out since then about its association with important outcomes such as falls, fractures, hospitalization, mortality, comorbidities, and etc. Since then, many working groups have been studying and collaborating to understand what sarcopenia really is. And most of the recent working groups have been also suggesting that other components of musculoskeletal health, such as low muscle strength and low physical performance, have stronger prognostic clinical value for sarcopenia than solely muscle mass. So the most renowned working groups, such as the European Working Group on Sarcopenia in Older People and the Asian Working Group on Sarcopenia, they have been proposing sarcopenia to be defined as the combination of low muscle strength or low physical performance and low muscle mass. In chronic kidney disease, its prevalence is highly prevalent, and especially in dialysis-dependent patients. Some evidence have been reporting sarcopenia and its components, its traits, to be associated with important clinical outcomes, such as mortality, hospitalization, and progression to end-stage kidney disease. Then we summarized all this evidence and performed meta-analysis to see their association. So in our review, we have included 50 cohort studies, gathering a total of more than 72,000 patients, and with a median follow-up of 30 months. Most of these studies had good methodological quality, and as expected, most of them came from hemodialysis patients. Regarding the meta-analysis, we have found very interesting association measures. I'm going to start with low muscle strength. We have found it to be associated with a twice risk for mortality. Regarding low muscle mass, it was associated with a higher 51% risk for mortality. And for low physical performance, we have been found to be associated with 109% higher risk. It's important to highlight that these three meta-analyses have been performed with the whole spectrum of chronic kidney disease. We have performed some subgroup and meta-regression meta-analyses that will be available in the published article very soon. For the diagnosed sarcopenia exposure, the combination of low muscle mass and low muscle strength, we have only included dialysis patients. There were not enough evidence for the other stages and kidney replacement therapy modalities. And it has been reported to be associated with 87% higher risk for mortality. For the two last outcomes, hospitalization, we have only found 2 studies that associated low muscle mass in dialysis patients to see the association with hospitalization. And due to the low number of evidence, it was non-significant association. And we only have found 2 other studies with different exposures. So meta-analysis was not performed due to the low number of evidence for progression to end-stage kidney disease. Therefore, we may conclude that sarcopenia and its traits are associated with a higher mortality risk in the whole spectrum of chronic kidney disease, and evidence for hospitalization and progression to end-stage kidney disease is currently lacking. So thank you very much for listening to me. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the co-authors of this systematic review, especially Paul, who is here. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Heitor. Any questions for Heitor today? Oh, we got a comment. Annabelle says, great work, Heitor. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you so much.
In between coughs. Any questions? Not right now. All right. Thank you again, Heitor, for your lovely presentation. We will move right along here. Our next speaker, Samuel. Samuel is a PhD candidate from the National Autonomous University of Mexico in health sciences with a focus on clinical epidemiology. He has worked in some small clinical trials in regards to intradialytic oral supplementation and focusing in safety outcomes such as intradialytic hypotension. So Samuel, whenever you're ready to go.
Let me share this. Okay, so thank you, Emily, for your kind presentation. It is fantastic to see and hear what other young researchers have contributed to kidney research. My work has focused on 4 main topics listed in the figure I'm presenting to you. And these works have been led by Dr. Ángeles Espinosa, who is our PI. The first one has to do with intradialytic oral nutrition, specifically on its safety and also to identify the association between this intervention and the incidence of adverse events, especially intradialytic hypotension, which seems to be not associated, by the way, and also to determine the possible benefits of this strategy with quality of life, physical performance, and overall nutrition status, with some pretty good results. I can share the work if you wish to see them. We also have worked on body composition using bioelectrical impedance vectorial analysis. This method has shown excellent utility for identifying edema and helping achieve dry weight in patients treated with dialysis, which is very difficult in many ways, but it seems to be a very good method. The third one, the energy requirements, it is an extensive research topic with little information on kidney patients, but exciting theories. It has been shown that energy requirements may not be as large as we have thought. So guideline suggestions may not be that accurate. Because of this, some authors and my team have aimed to create and validate specific equations to determine energy requirements for CKD patients. And the last topic involves some collaborations on nutrition education and other clinical outcomes. This work includes, better choices for kidney health and ultimately making a little easier living with CKD. It includes avoiding unnecessary restrictions on diet choices, such as potassium restriction on a plant-based diet. This work, for example, was written by my friend and colleague Ailema Gonzalez, where it seems that serum potassium has a very low correlation with natural dietary potassium. So we want to try to avoid unnecessary restrictions on this potassium. Or maybe another interesting collaboration that proposed that there may be an association with the number of dental pieces and overall dental hygiene with protein energy wasting in CKD patients. Those with poor hygiene have more malnutrition inflammation score, meaning worse nutritional status. Right? So this work was written by my friend and colleague, Sonia Lopez. And on the other hand, I just wanted to point out that exercise has a significant association with all these topics, and I have found a new passion for it. I can be more excited for being part of this great team, GREX Young, and hopefully to start soon to include this complex variable in my research work. So that's it for my presentation. I hope I made myself clear. Thank you.
Yes, you were great, Samuel. Thank you so much for sharing your research. Any questions for Samuel? Paul Bennett says, welcome, Samuel. Great and expansive work. Lovely comment. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, compliments? Congratulations, Sam. Great work in all areas from Annabelle.
Thank you, Anna.
Heitor asks, personal question, where have you been working?
Mostly at Mexico City, in medical institution, which is a big one here in Mexico City, which is the Institution for Medical Sciences and Nutrition Sciences, Salvador Subirán. So.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. He also says, congratulations. Nice job. So, all right. Thank you for sharing, Samuel. We will move right on to Daniela. So Daniela is a PhD student within the Research Center in Sports Science, Health Science, and Human Development at the University Institute of Maya, and holds a fully funded PhD studentship from the Portuguese Foundation for Science and Technology. She did her Bachelor of Science in Physical Education and Sport at the University Institute of Maya in 2015, and a Master's of Science in Physical Activity and Health at the Faculty of Sports in Porto University in 2017. Her current research focuses on the understanding the impact of physical exercise on bone health and chronic kidney disease. So Daniela, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Have you seen my screen, right?
Yes, looks good.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today. Today, I will be sharing our exercise training protocol developed to exercise hemodialysis patients. The intradialytic progressive resistance exercise training, also known as EPRT, includes dynamic resistance exercises within a specific intensity range that may be adjusted in accordance with the principle of progressive overload. Patients are encouraged to complete 12 repetitions at 65 to 75% of their estimated 1 repetition maximum of each exercise for all 3 dialysis sessions. Throughout the 12 weeks, the exercise load will progressively increase from 65 to 75% at each 4 weeks. This program is in agreement with the frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise recommendations for CKD patients and lasts 12 weeks, totaling 36 exercise sessions. All sessions must be supervised by an exercise physiologist or by an appropriately trained health professional. The 8 exercises in this program comprises 3 unilateral pushing and pulling upper body actions, such as chest press, rowing, and shoulder press, and 5 lower body actions, hip flexion, leg curl, leg press, hip abduction, and hip adduction. Any exercises using the vascular access arm are performed before the start of HD sessions. All exercises are performing using the EPRT machine, except for shoulder press, which must be completed using a free weight dumbbells. As you can see, these are examples of 3 types of exercises performing in this program. One is chest press, performing during dialysis sessions with non-fistula arm, and the other is rowing performed with fistula arm before HD session. And the last one is hip adduction, unilateral hip adduction, performing also during HD sessions. So thank you, and thank you for attending, and I will be happy to take any questions you might have.
That was great, Daniela. Thank you so much for sharing. I have a question. Where do you find that weight resistance training setup on wheels? Where do you order something like that?
Yeah. So when I came to the clinic, we start to think another way to exercise patients instead of ankle cuffs, because we want to increase the intensity. So I was thinking in a way, and I idealized a machine, not this machine. It was other machine, but very bad. And our team improved that version, and we developed this new one. So wow. This is the final machine.
That is awesome. Yeah, I know right now in our clinic, we have resistant bands, and they only go up to a certain resistance. Yeah. And so it's nice to have that variability with the weights there. That's awesome. All right, we got some questions coming in here. So Paul Bennett says, great program, Daniela. Is this part of NephroCare funded program? If not, who funds the EPs?
No, I'm fully funded by the FCT, Portuguese Foundation, but we made this with CIDESD, Center of the Investigation of Maya. So this is not funded by NephroCare, is by us,
okay,
by our center.
Mm-hmm. So Annabelle says, very impressive setup. Could you share some of the comments from patients that are participating in your study? Do they like it?
Yes, they really like. When I finish my intervention, they asked me to still with training with machine. They didn't want to come back to the ankle cuffs. So it was really difficult to explain them that the program was finished, mm-hmm. and they had to return to ankle cuffs. So in my experience, they used to like a lot.
Awesome. And Kristen Parker says, wow, you have a ton of space near your patients' dialysis chairs. How do you account for the AVF arm? Great work.
Sorry, I didn't. How do you account for the? Okay. Sorry, I didn't understand this question. Sorry.
I'm just curious if you have them exercise their fistula arm at home, or how do you account for all the strengthening of the other side of the body when you're doing upper?
They perform exercises before with fistula arm before the HD treatment. In the same day, they perform first with fistula arm, and then they enter they start the treatment, and they perform the remaining exercises during the treatment, and they are the same. The exercise for upper body are the same for non or for fistula arm, with the same machine.
Do you find the CDC's alarm if they're doing upper body? Is there an increased prevalence of the alarms in the machine, the central line? They're having dialysis through a central line.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Emily, did you hear too?
Not quite.
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, better.
Just the central line, those that have a central line, is there an increased amount of alarms on the machine?
No.
When they're doing their upper body strength training?
No, never.
They didn't find that?
No, nothing.
Good.
Sorry,
Nice
I
work.
didn't understand this.
Yeah. Dialysis chat. Thanks, great work.
Awesome job. Thank you so much, Daniela. Okay.
Thank you.
We will finish up with Brett, last but certainly not least, Brett Tarca. So Brett is a exercise physiologist at the University of South Australia with over 10 years experience in the health industry. He has been responsible for the delivery of key clinical content into the clinical exercise physiology program through his undergraduate and postgraduate career, in addition to the supervision of students in the University of South Australia Exercise Physiology and High Performance Clinic. Brett's research focus surrounds exploring the relationships between physical activity, physical function, fatigue, mood, adverse events for people receiving peritoneal dialysis, and his aim is to understand these underlying relationships to tailor and develop movement-based interventions to improve the lives for people receiving PD. All right, Brett, take it away.
Thank you, Emily. I'll shorten that bio for you next time. Now, can you see that screen there?
Yes, that looks great.
You are seeing the PowerPoint slide, sorry?
Yes, I am. Yeah, looks good.
Excellent, awesome. So thank you very much. This this captures my entire PhD. I'm going to be basically promoting some of my studies because they're not quite at the result stage just yet. They're getting very close. Now, the first thing that you need to know about my PhD is that it does involve just people receiving peritoneal dialysis. So that is my research focus, as Emily mentioned. So I'm going to talk you through each of my studies. The first one is the top right orange clouds. So this study is looking at physical function. So physical function as a concept is defined as the ability to do day-to-day activities. So what my study is looking at, in particularly from an exercise background, is I want to know, is it cardiorespiratory fitness, muscular strength, physical activity levels, or sedentary behavior levels that is the strongest predictor of someone's physical function. So we're tracking this over 12 months, so at baseline 6 months and 12 months, and we're just looking at those longitudinal changes and how this relates to physical function. We're using just field tests, so the assessment sessions have been taking place in people's homes. This has allowed us to maximize our recruitment. We have managed to recruit over 100 people receiving PD. This hasn't always translated to everyone actually fulfilling the full 12 months, but we have achieved quite great numbers. So I have done some baseline analysis, a little bit too early to start sharing results, but these are in the pipeline and they will be coming very, very soon. The second study, which is the green bubble, this study looks at fatigue, mood, and physical activity. So we know that there is potentially an interrelationship between those three variables, and it's worth mentioning as well, fatigue and mood are actually high priorities for the patients. They have actually reported that this is where they want research directed at. And what we know about physical activity is that physical activity can help reduce fatigue levels and improve mood, but we just don't know much about it from a peritoneal dialysis perspective. So what we're doing for this study is quite novel. We're actually using a mobile phone application to track fatigue over a 7-day period. The mobile application, very easily downloadable. It prompts people 5 times per day to report about their fatigue using a visual analog scale from a scale of 0 to 10. It just asks whether they're feeling severely tired or not tired at all. Are they exhausted, not exhausted at all? We do this at morning and at bedtime, and there's also 3 periods throughout the day where the mobile application actually sends out a semi-random prompt. So what we're actually getting from this study is the first real-time data of fatigue. Unfortunately, a lot of the studies that have been done use questionnaires, and this suffers from recall bias. So what the mobile application allows us to do is actually capture data in the moment. So really valuable information that we're getting. And then at the same time, they're just wearing an activity monitor, and we're going to look at whether their fatigue levels actually relate to their activity that they're doing at the time. To date, we've had 40 people complete the protocol. We're looking for 55. So again, on the home stretch there, and I hope to share some results potentially this time next year if we do this again. Now, the third study that I'm doing, which is that pink cloud on the end there, this is actually two parts here. This one's related to adverse events. So one of the things we know about from reported literature is that there is some concern about safety of exercise for people receiving PD. So what we aim to do was to, well, firstly, we did a systematic review. This was exploring all the known physical activity and exercise studies that have been done with people receiving PD, and we collated the adverse event information. I'm pleased to say it actually just got accepted for publication on Tuesday. So I'm happy to share some of the key findings from that one. Very importantly, there were no serious adverse events related to exercise. So a serious adverse event is hospitalization or death. So nothing reported there. We didn't find any PD specific type adverse events. There was only one related case, even if you want to call it that, which was a mild case of abdominal discomfort. This person was doing an abdominal strengthening exercise, so we don't know much more details other than that. But the general take-home message from that review is that there does not appear to be any increased risk when people participate in exercise and are receiving PD. The second part of this study is actually an online survey, which is actually going right now. This is a shameless plug. I am going to be looking for help from anyone and everyone who can help get it to patients. As I'm sure you know, it can actually be quite a challenge. So it has just been released. It's an online survey. It is now asking the patients directly if they think that they've experienced an adverse event, either during or soon after completing exercise or physical activity. It's a list of about 23 different types of adverse events, ranging from blood pressure going up or down, a fall, musculoskeletal injury, blood sugar levels going low, blood sugar levels going high, nausea, a whole list of symptoms. And all the patients have to do is just answer whether they think they do think something is related, it's possibly related, or it wasn't related at all. And that is the crust of my PhD. So it's all in the works. It's probably about 3/4 of the way there. So hopefully we'll have some results for all that soon. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett, for sharing. I'm also just going to go ahead and share a link into the chat. So Brett is an exercise physiologist, and he actually also recorded a video in conjunction with the Chronic Kidney Week in relation to movement and exercise for kidney health. So I just included that link there. So if you do want to check that out, you can definitely do that. Into the questions, Courtney asks, congratulations on the publication, resurvey. Is it for people on PD around the world?
Yes. Whilst we probably designed it, pitched it around Australia and New Zealand, we're not limiting it to that. We are wary though of translation issues, so it's not limited to people just in Australia and New Zealand. I'm happy to accept international patients as well. Please, more the merrier. Love it.
Yeah, Courtney says, send it to me. I can share it here, and you can send it to myself and Clara, and we can share it around as well. Samuel says, awesome work with pointing out adverse events. This should always be mentioned to avoid misinformation in healthcare personnel.
Yes, very much.
Kristen Parker says, I can share in Calgary. Wow, this is awesome. Heitor says, congrats, Brett. Personal question, why the interest in PD rather than HD?
Yeah, good question. Very simply because the volume of work that's been completed previously is heavily weighted towards people receiving hemodialysis. They're quite a weaker, a harder cohort to engage. I think a lot of systematic reviews in the exercise space actually reflect this, when the weight of numbers of studies involving patients receiving hemo to PD is quite imbalanced. So short answer, pretty much because PD has less knowledge compared to hemodialysis. So they deserve some attention, and they're hopefully getting it now.
Awesome. Annabelle says, nice work, Brett. I really like the idea of the app. Have you seen any user-related fatigue with this app?
No, that's a great question. And we haven't actually asked it, so I probably failed to mention this, sorry, in that study. So after the 7 days, on the 8th day, we actually do a feasibility questionnaire, just a one-off. And one of the questions all relate to the ease of use and to define the app hard, etc. So we don't specifically ask about user-related fatigue, but we do ask about whether the surveys were burdensome. So 90% have strongly either disagreed or strongly disagreed they were burdensome. On average, right now, when they take around about 2 to 2.5 minutes to complete per session. So we haven't directly answered that, but I think we can infer that probably not, which again is just an inference. And it is purely anecdotal, but no, I don't think we've had any user-related fatigue from that.
Awesome. So Courtney asks, might be too soon, but what is the engagement like with monitoring fatigue via the app?
No, it's a great question, and I can tell you because I've just finished doing the most recent bout of data. We've got about, it's a 79% compliance across the 7 days. So that's meaning out of the 35 survey sessions, around about 79% are being completed. So seeing great compliance, great engagement, and it's also been really enlightening because I think there's sometimes this misconception that older people might not be great with technology, and that couldn't be further from the truth here. We're seeing our oldest participants, 91, who had 98% compliance, no problems at all. And we've also got a loan phone, which we've sent out to people in this who are in their 70s. And again, great compliance, so they can actually learn the skill as well. So yeah, it's been really good so far.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brett. Any other questions for Brett? One's good. All right, well, that concludes our webinar today. On behalf of everyone from the GREX Network, we want to thank you all for joining us today for our GREX webinar in conjunction with World Kidney Day. We also want to thank all the GREX Young members who presented today and shared some really interesting research. We look forward to seeing what these young researchers continue to do as they make huge strides in CKD research. With that, I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their morning, day, or night, and happy World Kidney Day to you all. If you are interested in seeing or sharing this webinar, it will be uploaded to our GREX YouTube channel shortly. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Emily.
Bye, everyone. Amazing to see you.